pleasure to address my peers in the similar field. And today, during the course of the presentation, I would take CCAMP as an example and address the different, identifying different revenue streams and as well the legal aspects which comes along with it. So I have made the presentation as a flow where I would start initially with telling what CCAMP is, what largely we are doing at CCAMP, how we contribute in incubation, entrepreneurship, and innovation in the field of innovation of life science, and also the different kinds of methods, the way we generate revenue. So I would be happy to take questions in the end of the presentation. So Nirup, just confirm if the presentation is visible so that I can continue.
Yeah, we can see your screen. It's visible.
Thank you. So identifying revenue streams and legal aspects. This is more, I would like to be more like a knowledge sharing session during this 1 hour of time which is allotted. I would like, let me just brief what CCAMP is about before getting into the actual topic. So the Center for Cellular and Molecular Platforms, this is a non-profit organization which is funded by Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. And we form an important part of BLISS cluster, the Bangalore Life Science Cluster, what we call. So we provide access to functional laboratory along with high-end technology platforms. And we have so when I tell as Bangalore Life Science Cluster, our main partners who are with us are NCBS and INSTEM. So these both institutions are working in deep science innovations and research. And so this kind of a campus with the proximity with such campuses gives us to work on a deep science driven modern research. And we are connected to more than 200 organizations through the technology platforms and the technology which we develop in the campus. And one more advantage here is we are actually a part of we are located in the Agriculture University campus. So we do have one more academic campus close to us to work in association. And we have a drive for excellence built in the culture that trickles our startups. So at CCAMP, we have continued to support all these networks, networking the academic institutions with industrial researchers as well as innovators and thought leaders. And this through this we continue to develop and maintain a agile yet a resilient ecosystem that nurtures innovation in the healthcare and life science industry. So with exciting research breakthroughs on the horizon, we play a major role as a science-based enabler of science-based startups, which has become significant over the years. And we hope to look forward for strengthening our existing ties with academics, industrialists, and funding agencies. So the CCAMP, like I said earlier, we are funded by DBT, but our other partners are BIRAC. So these are our funding partners. We have a different kind of association, or during the course of slides, I will be describing how we are actually associated with them. And we have other funding partners, even include AIM, Niti Aayog, and we have support from the local government of Karnataka and through their startup programs under KTech, Innovate Karnataka, and Startup Karnataka. And we provide funding support through MSME, Carbex, and NBM. And of course, not to mention our knowledge partners, which is NCBS and INSTEM. So this is a portfolio of which I would talk about CCAM. So CCAM has been created an impact in fostering bio-entrepreneurships in India. Though we are major present in Bangalore, Karnataka, the footprint of CCAM is across India, and more, now we are spreading even overseas. We have 200 plus startups who are funded, incubated, and mentored at CCAM with many of more than 70 plus startups who have received funding through the CCAM, and 180 plus patent filed by CCAM startups. And we have existing more than 20 plus startups who are physically incubated as of now with us, and most of them also associated what we mention as a non-resident incubation or as a virtual partners with us. And with this we are able to raise more than 770 crores of funding for our CCAMP startups. And especially I would like to mention, during this COVID period we have seen the impact even much more. We have been able to support startups and companies who are working in the line of building COVID related products, and we have a separate entity in CCAMP which mentors, supports, and helps in bringing commercializing COVID-related products. Even during this pandemic, that was one of the helps what we could do. So overall, when I say all this is a very slow capacity building what we have had at CCAM. How we started as an incubation center, then being an accelerator, then having other services being provided. So this is a slow growth and exponential growth of our incubator, through which now we are in a kind of a model to raise funds, to manage revenue within us, and to create an impact in the ecosystem, in the startup ecosystem, to encourage more startups come and look and engage with us. And when we tell as an incubator, in any incubator, it's a mutual growth. So incubator supports the startup, and as the startup grows, even the incubator grows. So this is a small mention on how CCAMP has been also working during this pandemic. So the COVID has hit bad across the world, and during this time, we made sure that we make best out of our stakeholder engagement. We make best out of our expertise and partners to help some of the startups who are working on COVID innovations. And through this program, we have been able to screen a lot of startups and companies who are working on and able to launch some of the products. And because we have a team, due diligence and thorough after thorough reviews, we were able to select 22, most of them which I have mentioned here, and selected them. And most of their products are almost in the market, and they're doing well in these terms. While I have given the basic introduction of the CCAMP, like now I have mentioned where all we kind of a function, and now I'll be getting into the actual topic and how we were able to reach this level and how this has been achieved. CCAMP is not just a bioincubation center, though we do have a incubation which we provide a plug and play model infrastructure bioincubation. We also have different other verticals through which we attract the startup community, whether it is an early stage, a mature startup, or even a mature company, or already existing company who might get associated with us for any other requirements. So overall, if we see any revenue path for an incubator would come from the rentals, or from the royalties, or from the equities, or the services what we provide, or the sponsors or CSR. Now, when we tell rentals, rentals are generally what we fix a monthly charge, or probably it depends, a charge per use or the per square feet what you collect from any startup or any a company who is coming into you. But if an incubator is sticking to the rentals over a period of time, it is going to be static because the space is utilized. If you need to generate more revenue, rentals is not a, continuous revenue generating path. So at such times, we might need to diversify further. And at that such time, we have equity coming in. And so when we talk about equity, we need to have some programs under the incubators where we support companies and in deploying their technologies, maybe creating an IP for them, and then we have an equity with him. I'll tell in the presentations where the equity can come in. And there are few funding programs where we engage in the royalty terms. And other revenue paths, which could be the sponsors. And being a Section 8 company, you can have sponsors, domestic as well as overseas sponsors. And there are few agencies or companies or organizations who might provide CSR funds as well. So these are broadly some of the revenue paths. But once an incubator has developed the capacity, we have an infrastructure, we also need to uh, see internally how we can raise revenues apart from these external sources. That would be through consulting, training, outreach, and technology transfers. When I say consulting, in an incubator, we will have expert from all the different fields. You will have financial experts, you might have life science experts who could mentor, you could have industry experts. So diversifying our stakeholder engagement is very much important to have raise revenue as we grow. So any incubator having an association with academia, government organization, we need to extend it further to industries. We having more and more advisory committees within us, having more and more mentors from across the field, and having a diverse focus area. So if I consider CCAMP, the focus area is healthcare, agriculture, the medtech, biofuels, clean energy, and so through this, we have a diverse portfolio, and that attracts startups coming in from all the fields. So having consultancy services, these are all the revenue generating services what an incubator can have. Then the training. So again, this involves how is your infrastructure built, and it could be even sharing of knowledge or even some trainings with respect to handling some of the technical knowledges as well, some of the outreach services, and then the technology transfer. We could have our own we could develop our own office for technology transfers, where you already have a good ecosystem who might be looking for having an IP value, so they don't have to go anywhere else. So this is where you start building your the revenue paths. Uh, so when I say incubator engagement models, this is rather also correlated to the revenue what we generate out from the incubator. Now, uh, any startup, when it comes to any startup, the way they engage with an incubator could differ. So I have put it under 5 different categories. So, like I would start with physical or resident incubation, what I say. So, this is basically for any innovator, whether it is an individual, whether it is a small size company, or whether it is a larger company, or even it could be any uh, internal academic innovator also who might look for a space to work. So, whom we called as a resident incubatee, who will use your infrastructure. More like CCAM provides a co-working space, which is a plug and play model infrastructure. We are more or less designed as an open working area. We do not have a wall to differentiate. So the co-working space enhances the possibility of each and every person to interact with another. So they get to interact with multiple, with a diverse population of different scientific aptitudes. So that way we provide an environment where they get to interact. So these kind of attracts a lot of startups or innovators or scientists who have worked in such cultures and found benefit in it. And so some of the models, I have mentioned KTech. So KTech is one of the vertical in which I'm part of handling the incubation there. So this is a funding which we receive from the government of Karnataka to build capacities, and we have a incubation area, and we have a set of technical all the equipments which support the life science research, the basic and the high end deep science, and these are generally built by support from the governments, like from through Bioness, we have raised the capacity, and through government of Karnataka funding, we have raised the capacity. So when we have received responses of the people who come to us, look for a space to stay for a year or maybe much longer. Generally, we engage with them for a year in agreement, and depending on the review and the progress of the company, and because we have a committee which decides the progress, and we do the continuous mentoring. And here it might here they may be only for the utilization of the facility. They may not be coming up for the funding or the mentorship, but only for utilizing the facilities what you'll be providing here. Now, when I say virtual or resident incubation, that is the next level of incubation. Virtual is when any startup would like to engage with an incubator only for utilizing some of the services. It could be any. Then comes innovation and scale up platforms and funding. So these are mostly for mature startups who have almost commercializable technology products or services or innovations, who want to get associated with us for utilizing the knowledge expertise, or maybe the and raising the funding. And so some of the mentions what I put here is through which we actually associate with startups like Carbex, through BIRAC, through AIM, we have seed funding which we provide to them. Apart from that, an incubator can engage with the clients over service model. So having a mentorship support. So we can always have a portfolio of mentors of different categories across different focus area, so that anybody can approach us. And we do have different program, like CCamp has their we have our own startup advancement program, and this is generally a equity based program where we work with them for on a certain percentage of equity. And it's a time limited program. Like KSAP, it's a 1 year program, again a equity based program. And then other model is the COE structure, that is a co-creation models. So we at CCamp have collaborated with government of Karnataka, which is a center of excellence in agri innovation. Through this, we support companies who are working on developing and commercialization of products with in agriculture. So COE kinds of creates a model and helps in the industry and the startup or industry networking. So through us, we help them nurturing initially by incubation, and also to a level that they are in the market with some commercializable product. So this is again more descriptively when I say what is a rental model. Like I said earlier, when we say physical or a resident, they majorly utilize the infrastructure, may or may not utilize a mentorship, but of course they'll be here for networking, the funding, and your portfolio support and the services. And when we say virtual, like I said, virtual can be categorized as two different things. So virtual are few startups who will have their own setup somewhere else, but they would like to utilize some of the technical services from us. So they may not use the infrastructure, but they might be working along with us for some mentorship support, or only for the networking, or only might be for the funding. And then So here they have an opportunity to come back to the campus at any point of time and be a part of the system. Whereas in a virtual non-resident, any one of these, so we have agreements with some of the companies who generally might have raised fund through CCAMP, and there is a mandate of having us an agreement with them. So we do have a virtual or a non-resident into rental models, with agreements which we get into them. So how do we, what are some of the legal aspects which would come in the rental model? So generally, to begin with, we generally get inquiries from through a reference, or somebody might have directly approached because of through after they see our websites, or there are companies and the funding models, they refer us to CCAM. Apart from that, there's something where we are associated as big partner, that is from the BIRAC. So being a big partner, the grantees who apply through the BIRAC partner like CCAM, they incubate with us. So there are different ways any startup or a company would get to incubate with us. We cannot have a uniform legal aspect for everyone, but there are few common things which can be. One, any standard format is okay. I mean, you could find the standard format from any um, attorneys, and you might need to modify it according to your circumstances and the requirement. So we do have three different models. In the first rental model is when an innovator comes independently without through any sources, funding sources or agency. When they approach us, we get into kind of an agreement with them only for the space what we provide, and we commit to the services what will be involved under that. So we cannot categorize all under single agreement. Like I told, when we see a revenue generating stream, the incubation center has to categorize your facilities under different heads. So you could have a few models which would come within certain charges you set per month. There might be some which involves a high maintenance or a high expertise area, which could be categorized separately, and they could be charged on additional basis. And there could be some services we do have a high-end technology platforms which is handled only by the experts, so which is provided on a service mode. So there are different, though these every stages we have a different agreements in place. So basically we make an agreement which will have a background of the parties, that would be CCAMP and the party who is going to associate with us. So we mention the details of these two parties, and then there comes the term. So you could see a collage of the terms. The major thing what we mention in the agreement is what kind of a project are they involved with us, which is very much important, because we need to commit to a project. Sometimes it happens they will have multiple projects, so we need to engage them and know what kind of a projects they are working on, what would be their team size. What happens is a good documentation clears a lot of this gives a confidence in with both the parties. So when our documentation and the agreements have the right terms in a very simplified language, it clears a lot of doubts, and that document kinds of helps us to any disputes coming or any concerns coming be addressed based on that agreement. So please make sure to include all the points which would come with specifically for probably for with your incubator. So that's why I do not didn't wanted to put some standard model which may not fit. I think every agreement is case to case basis different, but more or less these are some of the major things which will go into an agreement. The period of agreement at CCAMP, we engaged with them for a year and extend it based on the review their progress and how they would like to proceed. And we do have exit policy in place. And so this happens that there might exit policies, there might be uh, some reasons for them to exit the incubator due to their reasons, or you may not, there might be times when the startup or any company may not be aligning with our work nature. We might need to ask them to uh, mm, not utilize the facility anymore. So your exit policies needs to be made in such a way that either ways it's we have terms where they also have a option of having a proper exit, and even we know when how long to go with them, and when we could you know suppose if we need to stop our engagement in them, what terms would that be? Generally, exit policy is very important when you are engaged with any startup where the equity is involved. Then comes the SOP. So it would be rather have a SOP at place, and which clearly describes how our engagements with the startups are, and what kind of the facilities will be part of that model, and what are the like if I take example of CCAM, we are basically providing them life science based uh, research facility. So we mention what are the list of equipments we provide, and which comes on a shared basis, which they can, which is part of the agreement. And then we mention what are the the facilities which is under the services mode. So these kind of clear distinctions needs to be always be there to avoid any kind of confusions, and this brings in confidence within the client also who gets associated with you. And few incubators, we work basically on providing one scientist area or a benches. There are incubators who might work on the square feet allotment also. Again, it is left to the interest of the incubator, how they want to go, because each lab would differ. Like I mentioned, we have a co-working space. So we have designed, when we mention in the rent, we mostly tell the space what is allotted. It is directly correlated to the number of occupancy. It's not nothing to do with the area. And then mention of the charges, what is there, and if there is a revision, you might need to mention them advance that what would be, when is the revision applied, revision of charges applied. You may not need to furnish what would be the percentage of revision, but it's good to always have a line that there is the annual revision, or maybe, and even period of engagement. Um, there are few incubators who would like to associate with companies for more than 1 year. This all depends on the nature of startups we are working with. Now, if we are hand holding and working with the startup right from the idea till some technology is developed, 1 year is short. So, in such terms, based case to case basis, you can even change the period of agreement to more than 1 year, up to 3 years also. So, this is more or less about the rent model what we have. So, this is only with respect to the incubation model. Now, there are situations where companies or startups associate with us only for utilization of few services. There, it might be microscopy, or it might be some metabolomics, genomics, or we do have a microfabrication and rapid prototyping lab. So, in such cases, we get into an agreement with the individual company. They do not have a physical food, they may not have a physical presence at the campus, but then only for uh, the utilization of some of the facilities or the expertise. In such cases, we have a different, like I said, then the agreement changes on a case to case basis. So, your rental agreement or a lease agreement, this can be a standard template, but with a modification based on his or her general knowledge of business incubation. Each business incubation focus might be different. The nature of facilities what you have might be different. So based on that, we need to have a stand. We need to probably modify our agreement, but it is very necessary to run the agreement copies with an attorney to have the proper legal compliances in place and uh, usage of the right terms. Maybe attorneys help you to put it in a, and we may not need to have it in a very sophisticated language, rather simpler where both the parties understand and have it. So apart from rent, the other revenue parts, like I earlier mentioned, is the equity model and royalty. Now, when I say equity model, it's very important that we have platforms and different services at the campus. We need to have a good capacity developed within our ecosystem. We need to have infrastructures to attract more companies, because rent model, like I said, it becomes static. Once your space is filled, we cannot accommodate more. Then the revenue will just remain, only the rent will remain as a source of income, which is not sustainable model. You might need to expand further by having different services provided. Equity model is where we engage with different industry stakeholders or VC firms, and we do have quarterly um, investor meetings where we help these startups to present with the mentors or the angel investors, and from there we do have a equity sharing model there. And generally it isn't, like I said, mentoring, pitching to investor, any product deployment. It happens. We do have like I earlier mentioned, like KSAP, the KSAP, which is the Government of Karnataka Advancement Program, or we have CCAMP Startup Advancement Program, or we do have different sponsors who are associated with us, domestic and overseas, to whom to whom we introduce all these startups who have commercializations of technologies ready for deployment. And there is a generally equity based one, 2 to 6%. It would even come to 10% depending on the program. It could change. Another model is the royalty model. So here, royalty model is generally involved in the where the fund dispersing agency is there, or we have a partner. So suppose if I had to take an example, I would BIRAC is one BIRAC big fund. So CCAMP is a big partner. So we do have a lot of people, scientists who apply through CCAMP as a partner. And there we have a royalty involved in case they have some product, technology, services, software, which is which has a possibility of generating income during the course of the project or even after the course of the project. There is a royalty set, generally 5%, and this again differs. It's a case to case basis. And some of the major key terms which has to be part of the agreement is a stuff. Initial agreement could have your both the parties, how you're associated, what are the kind of services which is involved, and the background of how we are associated with us, and following with which some of the terms like the responsibility of client in the project, and the jurisdictions where all this compliance. So because the royalty is part of the project, all these are very much important. And when you have a company who is almost on the verge of having a product for deployment, it is very much important to include agreement terms on third party engagements. There might be a point when they might have external third party engagement, so we need to have proper terms in place. And one more important part is the stamp paper value. So for rental models, to quote an example, we do have a rupee 100 stamp paper, but there are companies who, based on the value they pay to the incubator, they increase the stamp paper value, but that because they have to match their audit requirements. So we had, if I had, there is an example of a company. Generally, our stamp paper, we do have a rupee 100 stamp paper for the rental models, but then for the value, they had to get of a little higher thing. So that is absolutely fine with us. So again, because even the company, they will have their own audits, their own bookkeeping. So based on that, the stamp paper value can be standardized if it is going to be a continuous process, or you could always go to based on how a startup would like to engage with you. Confidentiality is one big important thing which we need to maintain when you are engaged with any kind of startups on equity and royalty models, because in such cases there is an additional document which we might not take care of, that is the non-disclosure agreement. um, and then the royalty obligations and the governing law. So these are some of the things which you could include in um, the agreement when under these three. So apart from these, I would like also tell other revenue generation parts. So these are the major ones what I could take examples from CCAMP, and others are, like I told, sponsors. There might be private agencies who would go. These all depends on how our ecosystem is, what kind of a portfolio what we are having. It is very important that we have, while selecting startups, you invest on startups who are having doing a deep science research, having economical value, and this attracts lots of investor. Like I told, this is a continuous engagement where through this you develop a better stakeholder portfolio. You can have companies who would come and associate with you. You could have organizations who would like, if I have to go back to our partners, you might have seen Carbex, Beyond Ventures. So they raise funds. I mean, we raise funds for startups who work along with them, and we do generate funds through that. Um, so as an incubator, there is no successful model. If you ask me, there's no secret recipe, and the incubation should be like a process of de-risking an idea and or a startup, which we help them to improve the odds of their success. So incubation process itself take different forms of shape, and we provide them infrastructure, maybe some technology platforms, prototyping lab, funds, market access, business mentoring. So it is necessary at the same time to keep ratio of our staff to meet and manage our budgets and funds in place. And all these activities are very critical in the early days, because this becomes a critical component of the incubation. And like I said, there's no one secret recipe for creating a successful bio incubator. And we need to have and some of the way which we also can generate revenue is by utilizing the expertise we have on board in the incubation centers. So we have different our organization have different like, if incubation is one part, then we have a whole team who handles the entrepreneurship. We have a team who handles the funding part. So through this, we can engage in workshops, we can engage in hackathons, we can engage in training programs where you could, on a charge basis, and you could organize these workshops for startups, and they can be discussions between startups and team members. These kind of programs encourage other the participants get a confidence when they start seeing engagements from other startups who are engaged with you, the success stories. This gives a better options for you to diversify further. And again, one thing an incubation should do is a documentation. Documentation is very important. Detailing of your journey, and this becomes a rule book for more or less the similar startups. And then the team members of incubation, they should be encouraged in participating on all discussions and community building. So when an incubator is there, the best, uh, like I said, the advantage of we being a part of this Bangalore Life Science cluster is we are surrounded by academic organizations. We have a lot of scientific experts. We have close to us an academic institute where there's a knowledge people can utilize. So everyone knows that once you are in the campus, what are the benefits we are getting. So these experiences helps the groups in enhancing learning. So by utilizing the campus, any standard model would tell the rental model, royalty model, or equity, which could be a revenue path. But if you ask me, developing revenue streams is also a part of how an incubator can raise by developing their capacities at different levels and having a right team of networks. You could always uh, build different programs. You could have different. Every incubator is different. I mean, you could start having your chart out something which, like if I have to take an example, we do have training programs happening during pre-COVID. We had physical trainings where people could come and take hands-on trainings, which was on a charge basis. So this is one of the revenue streams what we could see. And then there are these workshops or seminars. You could bring in some experts to talk about how to pitch, how to pitch to an investor. These are some of the things which even our startups are, they look from incubators. So we need to identify the topics which where we could engage with them and understand all these methods where we can make our incubator much more live, active, and our presence spread across. I think not just in your local area and everywhere. And the advantage of this COVID era is your presence can be much more enhanced because now more or less we all are connecting over virtual platforms. So you could reach to a larger population. I'm really happy to say that we are receiving inquiries outside Bangalore, outside Karnataka, from Northeast, from North India, who wants to take services from CCAM at one or the different levels. Like I told, though their engagements us with differ. So, as an incubation manager, these are some of the knowledges and experiences I've been having. We have been able to, I think, evolve with new methods and where we reach out, the outreach activities. And by doing this, especially the online platform, the trainings help you to reach out. Services can be provided from any point of the world. They could send your samples, or you could have some accounting experts here with you, or you could have some computational experts with you. So I think we can just go on talking about it. Every you would know the expertise what you have. Based on that, we need to create a portfolio. And yeah, one more case. What I would like to say here is at Bioincubation Center, we were largely providing life science based research area, the wet lab area. But eventually, we started noticing companies wanted to bring in their staff who are the non-scientific staff, because now we have a lot of companies who are working on the computational aspects as well, who wants their. So we started building capacity. Now we have, if a single company comes with a wet lab and a dry lab space, so we are able to accommodate them in the same campus. So evolving as we go on is I can totally correlate it to how you can even develop your revenue and sustainability over a period of time. So with this, I have almost covered most of the points. I would like to quote examples and then address some of these topics. And I would like to take stakeholder agreement as one example where the one project which I'm involved, that is CCAMP association with an academia, that is UAS Bangalore. So we have a lab, KTech lab, which was set up by CCAMP with support of Department of ITBT Government of Karnataka. So how we are associated with them? We have collaborated with this university, USB, which is an agriculture university, and we have developed a technology business incubator for scaling up its efforts in nurturing innovative life science startups with special focus on agriculture. How are the commitments? CCAM shares the state of the art technology platforms. We provide any startup, any innovators, or any company who associates, incubates with us. At CCAM, they get an access to the state of the art technology platforms. They get access to the molecular biology labs. And UAS works as a knowledge partners. We have a huge panel of domain experts there, the agriculture domain. So we have close to 20 startups who are associated with that and a different engagement. They are not restricted to the lab. They might be here only for utilizing the greenhouse. They might be only. So here, like I said, our engagements differ. We are each agreements with each startup is on what kind of services are they taking from us. We provide infrastructure, we provide space. We have two different organizations sharing their facilities. So now it further diversifies our portfolio, which attracts more and more startup engagements here. And just one more case study of our engagement with one of our scientists, Dr. Gausia. So Dr. Gausia joined with CCAM through the BIRAC Big program. So she chose CCAMP as her big partner, and our team handholded her during the mentoring, during the process of she had to raise a fund, the pitching, and everything. So she had a novel technology to talk on aeroponics for cultivation of economical value crop. So she was able to raise funds through BIRAC, and she incubated with us. So the different stages of engagement what we had with us. First, she became a big as a big partner. We got her as a one of our startup under the rental model, and after the completion of her project, she had a technology which had a value, IP value. So we, through our technology transfer office, we are providing her assistance to uh, come up with a patent for her technology. So there we are again associated with her. So she could have just finished the project and moved out and had something, but our engagement is further continuing. So we have initially started with the rent. Now she is part of, we are helping her. Once the IP is through, once her technology generates revenue, then we will have the royalty model as well with her. So these all comes when we follow up on funding and the networking, how we do that, how we provide them different assistance in their different stages for a startup. So I think overall, I've been able to cover uh, the topic. And like I said, there's no one recipe for successful incubator. It is a right implementation tool, the team, the kind of team we have, the high level strategy, our license with stakeholders, the infrastructure development, and the sustainability models. So, with this, I would like to conclude my this presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Dr. Ashita. Over to participants, like you can unmute yourself and ask the questions. Or you can even put in the chat box.
So So either I was very informative or so there's something on the chat box.
I think it's a feedback by someone.
Yeah, it's just a feedback. Thank you, Pradeep.
Any questions like anyone want to ask on any aspect of incubator or specifically life sciences if you're interested in, like you could ask for the next 6 minutes.
All right.
Dr. Ashwita was very crystal clear.
I have a question, please, if I can.
I would be much more happy if not just the questions, if anybody could share their way how it is done, because I assume all the incubation centers who have joined here have different mandate and focus area. So if no questions, I would be happy to even have feedbacks and how they do it, and kind of we could have a knowledge sharing. Okay. I think Geeta Jagannath Rao, can we have a collaboration with you in specific to biosciences? I'd be happy to take on this with you on an individual basis. Probably we can have much more detailed discussion.
Sure. Dr. Ashwita, if you can drop your email in chat.
I'll do that.
While Dr. Ashwita is doing that, I'd just like to give everybody a piece of information. We do get in a lot of queries after each session asking to share the video. What I'd like everybody to know is we are actually creating a course which has a lot of learning material and also your learning outcomes that will be included. Once the 6 weeks course is completed under the FASTA series, we will be rolling out the course as a whole unit itself. So if you can please bear with us for these 6 weeks, it will be great.
Sure. So with that, thank you so much, Dr. Ashwita. So Nirupa, like since we have most of the people and like we thought of opening out small breakout rooms where they can network for the next 5-6 minutes and then we can close the session. Is that okay, Nirupa?
Yeah, sure, absolutely, definitely.
So dear participants, like I'm creating a breakout room for four people. So you can network with those people and maybe in the next session.
Hi, a request to the organizers. This is Carl Ebenezer. I have a quick question. I was trying to ask that earlier. Sorry, I just lost internet connection, so I just came back online. Can I just ask the question to the facilitator?
Sure, Carl, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Ashwita, for the presentation. My question is with respect to the recent one that you shared. You spoke about Dr. Kaushika, novel technologies, and they were partnering with CCAMP. So that's exciting. So you also spoke about the models of royalty and so royalty is 5% and equity model is 2 to 6%. I understand that. See, but when it comes to royalty, and I mean, so in this case, just correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't fully understand the context. If we are enabling a researcher to kind of develop and then, you know, in the hope that it is successful and then we get royalty out of it, there's a lot of risk involved, right? So while I understand this is a model which is existing and sometimes people are successful, but it's sometimes, not all the time, right? So what is the percentage of success, and how do you arrive at 5%? Is it like industry standard? I mean, I want to know the percentage of success to fail ratio. That's number one. And then how do you evaluate what should be the royalty model? Because it's hard to predict, you know, because we don't know if that is going to be successful, even successful, that is commercial as an idea. And then, of course, when the idea is out there, then we can, to some extent, you know, make some estimates on the market. But how do you arrive at that? One is the failure and success ratio. Next is like the percentage of the royalty. So if you can just throw some light, that would be great. From your examples at CCAMP on which one has worked, which one hasn't worked, the historical data, if you can throw some light, that would be great, please. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So To answer you, the royalty models, of course, like you mentioned, it's a kind of uh, a risky model, as well as one thing what we have is the kind of stakeholder what we are associated with. And while selecting any company, it is done on a very series of reviews, and we categorize the company based on the value what they have, the product value, the commercialization stage, and we foresee all this. And in spite of that, if something happens, yes, that is a risk what we take. But generally there is a huge process which is involved in, which comes in selecting all this. Maybe to take any kind of a successful example, I cannot do it right now, because I would be happy if sometime later, Nirupa, to pull in my other colleagues who are totally involved in it, and if they could give some success stories. But this model again, it's not a set percentage, it differs with different sources, with whom agencies with whom we are associated with. So 5% is something a very general one, but it could differ again. There are risks, but then we tend to take it because there are a lot of deep science which needs an attention and which have a value. And I think through incubator, that is where our onus lies in identifying the right ones, having a diverse expertise team, and understanding a value of a company over a period of years.
Got it, ma'am. Even if you do not have success stories, can you at least give an approximate percentage of successes which has happened? It's just an approximate ballpark would do, just to understand, how viable this option is.
You could take close to, I would always tell it's more than 70%.
You mean 70% is successful and it becomes royalty? Is that what you're saying?
See, the success rate, again, like I said, we calculate based on the value of the company. And I can tell confidently 90%, like I told, I do not, since I'm not directly involved in that process, I may not be the right person to give you the percentage, but I'm happy to have some of our team members who are doing this in our future course of, these series.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Dr. Ashwita.